Sometimes in wrestling, the biggest fight doesn't happen in the ring. It happens inside the body. And no story proves that more than Chris Benoit. At first, he was a technician, small, sharp, and obsessed with perfection. But over the years, his body changed. Thicker neck, massive traps, veins everywhere. Behind that quiet intensity was a pharmacy. His doctor was reportedly giving him a 10-month supply of anabolic steroids every 3 to 4 weeks. That's not performance enhancement. That's chemical warfare on your body.
Benoit's doctors was prescribing a 10-month supply of anabolic steroids to the wrestler every 3 to 4 weeks.
And by 2007, the same drive that made him great completely destroyed him. When the tragedy happened, the world tried to make sense of it, how someone so disciplined could lose everything. Some said the drugs didn't cause it, others said they helped push a man past his breaking point. But the truth is this: Benoit wasn't chasing fame anymore. He was chasing survival in a business that rewarded the biggest, hardest, most intense version of you, even if it killed you.
And my words to Chris at that time were, "Chris, you're a very accomplished wrestler. You have the ability to go in and wrestle. Why are you doing these things?" And his response to me at the time was, "Dad, if I want a job, I have to."
Then there's Eddie Guerrero, Latino Heat, one of the most beloved performers to ever live. Funny, real, human. But behind that smile was pressure. When Eddie got to WWE, he was surrounded by giants, guys twice his size. So he did what so many others did. He bulked up, and the transformation was insane. He looked amazing, but it came with a cost. 6 years later, Eddie's heart gave out. An enlarged heart. Steroids weren't the only reason, but they were part of the story. He wanted to prove he belonged with the heavyweights, and in doing that, he broke his own. Fans remember the charisma, the lies, and the cheating, but behind that character was a man who just wanted to measure up. Then came Brock Lesnar, a man who already looked like a walking science experiment. When he first hit WWE, he looked like a genetic freak. Pure strength, pure power. Then he crossed over to UFC and the body changed. Leaner, faster, explosive. He said he was clean, and for a while, nobody could prove otherwise. Until 2016. That's when Lesnar tested positive for clomiphene, a drug used to boost testosterone and hide steroid use. He got suspended, fined, banned from the octagon. WWE didn't blink. He walked right back into the ring like nothing happened. Suplex, F5, cash the check. Business as usual. Because in wrestling, controversy doesn't kill careers, it sells tickets. And then we've got Triple H, the Game, the King of Kings. He started bodybuilding at 14 because he literally wanted to look like a wrestler, and he nailed it. During the Attitude Era, his physique was insane, thick, powerful, carved. But around 2003, something changed. He started looking softer, less defined, and the timing got people talking, right when he married Stephanie McMahon. Rumor was they were trying to have a baby, and steroids can mess with fertility. Maybe coincidence, maybe not. But the real gossip came from backstage. When Scott Steiner was asked to take a drug test, he said, "Sure, if Triple H takes one too." And suddenly, nobody was testing anybody. Triple H never admitted to anything, and to this day, he swears it's all hard work. But in an era where almost everyone was on something, the silence spoke louder than any denial. And then there's Hulk Hogan, the man who was wrestling in the 80s. The 24-inch pythons, the tan, the charisma, he was the American superhero. And for years, he told fans the same thing: train, say your prayers, eat your vitamins. But when the steroid trials came, Hogan had to tell a different story, under oath. He admitted that yes, he'd been using steroids during his WWE career. When he disappeared for a while and came back, the difference was obvious. The arms smaller, the body flatter. He still said the prayers, just maybe not the injections. That confession shattered the illusion, because if even Hulk Hogan, the guy who told every kid to stay clean, was using, then who wasn't?
I injected Hogan with steroids many times.
Many times.
Many times.
A dozen
Hundreds
times?
of times. Hundreds.
He told me he'd been taking steroids for 1 full year at the time I met him.
If Hogan was the face of the steroid era, Vince McMahon was the man behind the curtain, the boss who demanded monsters and somehow looked like one himself. By the late 90s, Vince had turned from corporate suit to comic book villain. Massive chest, shredded arms, veins crawling up his neck. He once admitted he'd used steroids back before they were illegal, but by then, nobody was shocked. The guy wasn't just building a wrestling empire, he was building himself into the product he sold. When your boss looks more jacked than your roster, you know the standard's insane. Then there was the Ultimate Warrior. The man who looked like an energy drink came to life. When he left WWE in 1991 and returned months later, something felt off. Same paint, same sprint to the ring, but a smaller frame. Rumors flew that the real Warrior had died and been replaced by a clone. The truth, he'd simply stepped off the juice. The muscles deflated, the myth cracked, and for the first time, fans saw how fragile that superhero image really was. The Dynamite Kid was another legend who paid the price early. He was pound for pound one of the best technical wrestlers to ever live, but the man was obsessed with looking bigger. He started cycling steroids just to hang with the heavyweights, and it nearly killed him. Doctors warned him in 1991 his heart had enlarged from years of abuse. He quit the gear, but the damage was done. The physique vanished, the power faded, and by the end, he was a shell of the man who changed wrestling forever. Even mid-card names like Maven Huffman weren't spared. He admitted years later that backstage pressure pushed him onto performance enhancers. He was told straight up, talk to the boys about creatine. Translation, get bigger or get gone. When nearly the whole locker room's on something, that choice isn't really a choice.
My second promo shot. I'm not getting those results without these performance enhancers.
And then there's The Rock, Hollywood's golden boy. Early 2000s Rock was athletic, lean, charismatic. But by 2010, he looked like he'd stepped off a Marvel movie set. Massive traps, bolder arms, and that signature glossy skin tone that fans couldn't stop questioning. He's admitted to experimenting back in college, but since then, it's all denials. Still, people notice the signs, especially after his surgery for gynecomastia, a side effect that screams hormone imbalance.
Making no more movies. You're gonna need surgery on your face just like you had it on your boobies.
Kurt Angle's story hurts in a different way. A real Olympic hero, a man who broke his neck and kept wrestling through pain that would destroy anyone else. He turned to steroids not to look better, but just to function, to wake up, to breathe, to keep performing at a level his body no longer allowed. Years later, the muscle shrunk, his nerves deteriorated, and he could barely feel his own fingers. That wasn't the price of glory, that was the cost of never saying no. And then there's Scott Steiner, Big Papa Pump. He looked like a science experiment that escaped the lab. Muscles stacked on muscles, voice cracking from rage and testosterone. He never failed a test, but when WWE asked him to pee in a cup, he said, only if Triple H does too. They never asked again. Sometimes silence tells you everything. In the end, these weren't just wrestlers. They were men trying to survive in a system that demanded superhumans. The lights, the cheers, the veins, the power. It all looked glorious. But behind every trap and dealt was a story of damage, addiction, and exhaustion. Because in WWE, perfection isn't a look, it's a curse. And sometimes, the price of the spotlight is your life. Be sure to drop a like, hit that subscribe button, and turn on notifications so you don't miss part 2. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll catch you in the next one.